For decades, the US has been the big boss on the world stage. Its influence shaped global trade, politics, and even culture. But now, a new challenger has entered the ring: China. Yep, the same country that once got labeled a developing nation is now racing to the top, and fast. We're talking a full-blown transformation into global heavyweight with plans to rewrite the entire playbook. But this isn't just about who's got the better tech or who's raking in more cash. It's about something way bigger: the future of how the world works. Will democracy and freedom, the stuff the US champions, keep leading the way, or will China's state-controlled authoritarian capitalism take over as the new blueprint? This power struggle affects everything: the phone in your pocket, the food on your plate, and even the air you breathe. So, is this just Cold War 2.0 or something way more complicated? Let's break it all down, twist by twist, and see what this epic showdown really means for all of us. My name is Shyam, and let's unravel this thread. Alright, let's rewind to the 1990s, right after the Cold War wrapped up. The US was on the top of the world, the Soviet Union was gone, and America became the undisputed global leader, calling the shots, setting the rules, flexing its unmatched military and economic power. It was the global boss. Meanwhile, China? Well, they were still on the sidelines warming up. In the 80s and 90s, China wasn't exactly the economic beast we know today. It was more about bicycles than bullet trains back then. Sure, they had a massive population, but the economy? Not great. Most people were living in rural areas, and the country's main focus was pretty basic: just getting by. But here's where the story takes a twist. In 1978, China's leader Deng Xiaoping made a bold move. He decided it was time to open up the economy. And wow, did that pay off. Over the next few decades, China's economy exploded. We're talking GDP growth averaging around 9% a year. Insane. By the 2000s, China wasn't just catching up, it was taking over. Think about it. If you bought something that wasn't made in China back then, you probably just lost the tag. The country became the world's factory, and all that trade brought in a ton of cash. Fast forward to today, and China is not just a manufacturing hub anymore. It's a full-on economic and tech superpower. Companies like Huawei and Alibaba are going head-to-head with global giants. And they're not just stopping there. China has been making big investments in other countries, building infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and beyond. So while the US was chilling on its post-Cold War throne, China was out there hustling. And now, we've got these two giants squaring off in what might just be the biggest rivalry of our time. Think about it. How many of the products you use every day are tied to this power struggle? Alright, let's clear something up. This whole US-China rivalry is not just a Cold War reboot with new actors. Sure, there's tension, a lot of it, but the dynamics are a whole different ballgame. So let's break it down. First up, money. The US and China are like divorced parents stuck in the same house. They argue about everything, but neither can afford to move out. Back in the Cold War days, the US and the Soviet Union didn't share anything. Different economies, zero trade, no sharing playlist or nothing. But today, the US and China are tied together in one big messy economic relationship. Just to put it in perspective, in 2022, they traded goods worth about $690 billion. That's a lot of cash flying back and forth. It's like a toxic friendship where neither side can afford to ghost the other one because money talks. Think about it. Your iPhone, designed in California, made in China. Those Nikes you're rocking, same story. Even Tesla is building cars in Shanghai. The US relies on China for cheap manufacturing, and China relies on the US to keep buying all those products. It's a complicated dance. One wrong step and both economies trip. So, unlike the Cold War, where both sides lived in their own bubbles, this is more like a high stakes business partnership that's gone sour. But it's not just about money, it's about something bigger: influence. Back in the Cold War, it was all about territories. The US and Soviet Union were obsessed with planting flags and building walls. Remember the Berlin Wall? That whole era was basically a territorial tug of war. Fast forward to today, and it's not about land anymore. It's about ideas and technology. The US wants to keep pushing its system: democracy, free trade, and innovation. Meanwhile, China's got a different pitch: authoritarian capitalism. Less freedom, more government control, but hey, big economic growth. And then there's the tech war. This is where things get spicy. 5G, AI, semiconductors, these aren't just buzzwords. They are building blocks of future power. And winning this race means you get to write the rules for how the future works. So yeah, the Cold War was about borders and territories. The US-China rivalry is more like a global chess game. And instead of fighting over land, they're battling over the future of everything: your phone, your internet, even the way countries are run. Pretty wild, right? Alright, let's talk about the real power move here: the fight for global leadership. So, how did the US end up as the world's boss in the first place? Well, after World War II, America didn't win the war. They basically designed the entire post-war world. Free trade, democracy, human rights, yeah, those were American exports. And let's not forget about the big global institutions we all know, like the United Nations, NATO, and the World Bank. All of them built on US influence. It's like America wrote the rulebook and said, here's how the game works. Oh, and by the way, we are the referee. And for a while, it totally worked. The US became the leader of the system that pushed open markets, alliances, and innovation. But here's the thing: not everyone's playing by those rules anymore, especially China. China's looking at the rulebook and saying, yeah, we're good, thanks, we've got our own playbook. And what's their model? Authoritarian capitalism. Sounds like an oxymoron, right? But here's the gist: a super strong central government that controls major industries while still encouraging crazy economic growth. Basically, they're running the show, but making it look like everyone's winning. Now, how is China selling this vision to the rest of the world? Enter Belt and Road Initiative. It's China's mega plan to build roads, railways, and ports all across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Sounds generous, right? Well, not so fast. Here's the catch: those countries often end up in debt to China. And guess what happens when you owe China a ton of money? Yes, Beijing gets a major leverage. But wait, there's more. China's not just handing out highways, they're making serious moves in technology too. Companies like Huawei are building 5G networks for super fast internet around the world. But critics are saying, hold up, is this just a sneaky way for China to expand its influence and maybe even spy? So what we have got here is a full-on clash of visions. It's not just about who makes more money or builds cooler gadgets. It's a battle over what the future of world will actually look like. And let me tell you, this thing is just getting started. So what's really at stake here? Well, this isn't just about two superpowers flexing their muscles to see who's stronger. This is about shaping the future rules of the game for the whole world. Let's break it down. On one side, we have the US, holding tight to its traditional playbook: democracy, human rights, free trade. It's the system most of us know. Is it perfect? Nope. But it's brought a decent amount of stability over the past several decades. On the other side is China. Their pitch is let the economy boom, but keep the government firmly in charge. Now the big question is, which system will the world lean toward? And this isn't just some academic debate happening in think tanks. These rules affect everything from how business operate to how global conflicts get handled. Imagine if trade policies, international laws, or even internet regulations start tilting towards China's model. It's a future where governments have way more control over daily life. Some might say that sounds efficient. Others, well, let's just say it gives off pretty dystopian vibes. But let's talk about where this gets really dicey. Taiwan. It's not just a dot on the map, it's a massive flashpoint. Here's the deal. To China, Taiwan isn't just a territory. It's a symbol of unfulfilled legacy. And legacies, especially in geopolitics, aren't easily forgotten. The US, on the other hand, supports Taiwan's self-defense. And that little disagreement, yeah, it's causing some serious tensions. And that brings us to another critical flashpoint, the South China Sea. China's out here building islands like they are redecorating their backyard. The US and other countries in the region are not happy. And here's where things get scary. When two global powers are locked in a rivalry like this, there's almost no room for error. We are talking razor-thin margins. One wrong move, a stray missile, a misunderstanding, or even a harsh tweet, and things could spiral out of control fast. So yeah, this isn't just about a contest over who gets to be number one. It's about what kind of world we are all going to live in. The rules, the risks, the conflicts, it's all on the table. And honestly, it's a lot to unpack. So where does that leave us? This isn't just about two superpowers duking it out for bragging rights. It's about much bigger question. What kind of world do we want to live in? A world driven by open markets and individual freedoms, or one where governments hold the reins deciding what's best for you? And here's the deal. This power struggle isn't happening in some far-off closed-door meetings. It's right here in your pocket, on your newsfeed, in the products you buy and the technology you use. It's woven into very fabric of modern life. What's even more wild? The end game of this rivalry isn't set in stone. The future is still being written, and we are all a part of it. Every decision, every policy, every innovation will shape how this epic showdown will play out. But one thing's for sure, the US-China rivalry is not slowing down anytime soon. In fact, some of the biggest tipping points are just around the corner, like Taiwan, the South China Sea, and the AI arms race. Any one of these could flip the entire balance of power. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that subscribe button. Next week, we'll take a closer look into the Taiwan conflict, why it's more than just a geopolitical hotspot, and how it could reshape the world order. So, what are you waiting for? If you have made it this far, it's clear this story matters to you. So let's keep the conversation going, because the threads of this story are woven into the fabric of our future. Until next time, stay safe.